Hello guys, welcome back to the brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well. This is me MasaudSec, and today I am back with another really interesting topic so the thing is, you have already heard a lot about SQL injection, how it works, how to perform it. Like there are different techniques, but today, I'm just in a mood to let's go some deep into it, like how actually it works. What are the possibilities in order to exploit SQL injection? So for that, we have a lab as well. We will be solving this particular lab. Okay, so this is the lab from Pot Swagger, and don't worry, this is not going to be a normal video. It will be a series, like 2 or 3 videos maximum. I'll try to finish this thing within 2 videos. Okay, so the thing is, let's try to understand how SQL work. Okay, how to perform it. I'm not going to go into the basic details like what SQL injection means, XYZ. You guys are already familiar with it if you are watching my videos, but if you don't, just make sure to check it out, the previous videos. I have already covered all these topics. Now this is not a basic topic, but we will be starting it like from the really basic. So the thing is, the first thing is that we always do in SQL injection while performing SQL injection is to find out that the application is vulnerable or not. No, in order to confirm it that the application is vulnerable or not, what basically we do, we have multiple techniques. The first one is we can test the endpoint manually, like you can use single quote, just do single quote, and if it throws you an error, then it means that the application is vulnerable. The error can be like in a different way. For example, in my case it is internal server error, but in your case it could be like you have an error in your SQL syntax, error SQL or something like that. There are so many formats in error, but the time when you got the error, just try to visualize it in your mind that okay, there is a possibility that it is potentially vulnerable with SQL injection. And the second method is you can also use double quote. Okay, there is a single quote and then we have a double quote. These both are like in some cases it might be possible the single quote didn't give you any error, you can try the second one, but in my case the first one work really nice, you can say. Let's let me do it in this way. Single quote. Sorry, it is automatically completing, not good. Okay, so yeah, the application is vulnerable, we just confirm. Now how to exploit it, let's go step by step. The first thing that you know what, I just forgot to tell you that this is the one method. The second method is you can literally scan this application for SQL injection only. You can scan this entire application for SQL injection vulnerability, and you can do it using Bob Suite professional version, and I've already covered this entire things. Don't worry, I'm not going to do anything else, but rather just to tell you the exact video. Okay, yeah, the reason I told you I'm not going to go into the basic details because I've already covered each and everything in this particular course, which is basically approximately 12 hours long course, in which you will find out how to use Burp Suite. For example, here yeah, here you can see mastering Linux, and then Burp Suite for pen testing, application scanning, and then OS command injection, file upload, each and everything, even though I have covered so many labs regarding SQL injection as well. So the thing is, I will pin this video link in the first comment. Just make sure to refer it and learn it from basic up. The reason I'm being redirected from the topic to this point is because if you guys want to understand how actually we can scan the targets using Burp Suite, then simply you can just literally go with the video. like it explain everything how to do it using burp suite. Okay, so I'm not going to cover that part, that is already covered, just refer to it by the way. And yeah, you can find out the SQL injection vulnerability through manual, or you can do it using burp suite scan. This is the first thing. No, after the successful finding of SQL injection, the next thing that we need to do is to find out the number of columns. Like the first and really first thing that we do in any application is to find out the number of columns, how many columns we have it in the database or in the tables of our target. So we have different techniques for that. Okay, the first one method is you can do it using order by method, and the second one is you can do it using union select method. So in order by, like we have different variants. For example, we have the basic method where you can type order by one and dash dash. This dash dash is basically comment. In SQL programming we call it comment, where we comment the query, we tell to the server that ignore, or we tell to the database to ignore the rest of the stuff after this. So you can do it either by using order by method, or you can do it by union select method. So let's check it out one by one. In order by, what you can do, you can identify the number of columns by just typing order by one, and if it gives you an error, just try to 3, sorry, it won't give you an error on 1, it won't give you an error on 2. Like why? Because look, for example, if we have 4 number of columns in our target, if you type order by 1, it won't give you an error. If you type order by 2, it won't give you an error. If you even type order by 3, it won't give you an error. And if you type order by 4, it will not give you any error. But the time you type order by 5, the application will throw you an error. Why? Because in the target we have 4 number of columns. So if you are trying to type order by 5, the application layer, simply in your browser, the application will give you an error, like it won't work in that case. Okay, this is the first method. So let's try to understand, like we have this target, and let's try to go with the very first method, which is order by. Okay, so just type single quote, and then you can simply type order by, and then you can type 1, and then you can type dash dash. Okay, so this is the first. You can see it reflected, which means that okay, we have at least 1 number of column. But do we need to stop here? No, let's go further. After 1, sorry, after 1 we need to type 2. Okay, so order by 2, which means we are asking from the server, we are querying to the database that do you have 2 number of column. It didn't give me any error, which means it is reflecting the query, and it literally means that okay, we have 2 number of columns at least. Now let's try to figure it out, like how long we can go. So sorry, order by, and let's try 3 this time. So you can see when I type order by 3, it literally gives me an error, which means that on the target, we literally have 2 number of columns. We have 2 number of columns. Simple is that. There is no rocket science in it. Okay, this is the first method in order to identify the number of columns. Secondly, you can encode it. Like if you want, you can encode your query. If you want that you are not interested in those spaces, if they are confusing for you, just make sure to put some pluses in them. Okay, just replace them with plus. Is simple as that, no rocket science. Then the second method, the third method in it is if the server have WAF, if the server there is a firewall on the server and it is blocking your query, then you can type null byte in order to bypass it. Like one and just type your null byte with it. This is just a single method to bypass the security. Remember, there are other variants as well. So I'm just telling you that even though if the server is vulnerable, even though if the server have some sort of WAF, still you can bypass it easily. Okay, not easily, definitely. It will you have to put your energy and mind in it, but at the end of the day you can bypass it. Simple is that. So by the way, this is the first method. Then the second method is we can use union select method. Like how it works, let's try to understand. uh Single quote, and then just type union selector, union select. Remember, the SQL language by itself is not case sensitive, which means that even though you can type select in this way, even though you can type C in this way, it won't affect your code, it won't affect anything. Okay, so it is not something that you mistakenly type small p instead of large, and it gives you an error. No, in that case, in SQL, in programming, it will, because programming languages are case sensitive, while most of the programming language, but in SQL we do not have that kind of issue. So you can simple type union selector, and then you can just type null and dash dash. Okay, the null is basically, you can say, we exactly don't know the number, the name of the column, so we are giving it like, hey, do you have one number of column or not? When I will hit enter, it will literally give me an error, which means that the target have more than one number of column. Okay, so let's try to make it to union selector, and then we can type null, comma, null and dash dash. Okay, so let me copy the query. So like, this is totally different from the order by method. In order by, you can go like from 1 to 2, from 2 to 3, from 3 to 4. When you will exceed the number of columns, it automatically gives you an error. But in null method, you must have to put, in order to find the number of columns, you must have to put the exact number of columns, and this is what we are doing. At first we tried one time null, and it gives us an error, as you can see. But on the second time, we will be using null, comma, sorry, here we have a dot. I have put the dot, but we have a comma. Okay, yeah, so null, comma, null dash dash, and let's hit enter, and you can see that the query is returned, which means which simply means that we have two number of columns. Is simple is that if you try to put the third one, it will give you an error. The only exact response that you will get is by putting the exact number of columns. If you decrease it, it won't work. If you increase it, it won't work. For example, if there is two number of columns, you must have to put the exact two nulls. Okay, if you put one, the application will throw you an error, and if you put three, the application will throw you an error. This is the first thing that you need to understand. Okay, so let's try to understand. Union select null and dash dash. If it gives you an error, just go for the second one, union select null null. Okay, if it gives you an error, go for the third one, and keep going until you get your response on the application, in the application layer, like in your browser, in the web app directly. Okay, yeah, when the application will stop giving you an error or stop throwing you an error, it means those are the exact number of columns. And similarly, you can bypass the WAF, web application firewall. If they have it, you can just type this up. I just added it just to make sure that in case if you encounter firewall, it is not and they are blocking your query, you can try to bypass it. Okay, So we successfully identify that our target have two number of columns, and yeah, using order method as well as using union select method. So now let's keep going up. The thing is, now we need to identify the vulnerable or reflected columns. Look up in SQL, once you find out that okay, I have two number of columns or X number of columns in my target. No, at the end of the day, what is our goal? Our goal is to pull out the confidential information or sensitive information from the database to query the database. Okay, and the most important thing in database for us could be username, passwords, email address, and credit card details if it is a e-commerce type website, like selling something. Those could be the important and confidential information. But look, here is the thing. The thing is, all those information will be stored in, you can call it in a string or text based data. Okay, in a string or text based data, because we are not interested in images or any other thing. The only thing that we are interested in is simply is text data, is string data. Why? Because I earlier explained what kind of sensitive data we can grab from the database, if we find out the exact column that accepts string data. Okay, so for example, if you identify 10 number of columns and 6 of them are not returning string or text data, then they are literally useless for us. We cannot use them. Okay, so we are only interested in those parameters that are sorry, those columns that is actually vulnerable and that is reflecting our text or string data. Okay, it's simple is that. Now for that, we have multiple methods. We have the first one method that we have it is using string concatenates. Okay, data type verification. So let's not go into the technical things. Let's try to understand how it works. We will be trying to find it out by using variants and different payloads. For example, you can use string injection. In string injection, what basically we do, we try to add names to the number of columns. For example, in our case we have two number of columns and we are already aware of it very clearly. So if the application return the same, like this column 1, column 2, column 3 and column 4 is what, these are basically text, these are strings, these are text data. Okay, so if the application return you this type of data, then it means the first number of column is really good for what, it is basically good for text data. We can further query that particularly column in order to pull out the data from the database. Is simple is that. Okay, so what we will be doing, let's try to understand it. Let's not go into it. Let's try to understand it in a really simple way. So the thing is, at first we already know that we have two number of columns. So now let's try to understand more by simply typing okay, single quote, union union select, and then let's say uh, column 1. Okay, column 1, and let's say uh, column 2. Okay, and then we do not need to go into third or fourth column, because in our case we already know that we have two number of columns. Okay, so I will copy this, I will simply copy this is the first method. So you can see both of the columns, like column 1 and column 2 is literally returning the text data, which means the column first and column second both are vulnerable, and in future we can use it to pull out data from the database. Like simple is that. Okay, so this is the first method. The second method is we can literally use the null method. Yeah, we can use the null method. How we can do it? You can just type union, sorry, single quote, union select, and after that you can type null. This is the first one, null, and we have the second one, null, and dash dash. So what it will do, basically we are already aware of it. I think I have earlier explained this thing. So our job is to find out the column that actually reflect our that actually reflect our query. So we can, let's, instead of null, let's type abc, okay, and single quote, and then we can just use on for the second null and dash dash. Know what I'm doing here? Basically I'm trying to figure out that, this is the professional way. Like, you have to do it one by one. You have to figure out that the first column is giving you abc, which is text data. If it returns here, then it means simply it means that it have the ability to give you a string based data or text based data. If you type it as abc def or anything else in both, then the issue will be arise if any one of them is not returning string data or text data. The application will throw you an error, and you will be confused that which one column is working for you and which one is not. That's why if you have multiple columns, always make sure to test them one by one, replace their null values and keep testing them, which one column is actually suitable to, if which one column is basically vulnerable to give us text data. So let's hit enter. Okay, so the first column is basically vulnerable, and it contain text data, and in future we can utilize it. Then let's keep going. Let's replace the second null with what? Let's replace the second one with the, okay, one second, def, let's say def. Okay, so yeah, I think this is better. So let's hit enter, and you can see that the second one column is also returning the text based data, which means that both of these columns are literally suitable for us. Like here you can see, sorry, not here, you can also see it here, abc and def. It means that both of those columns are actually containing text based data, string based data, and we can utilize it in future to pull out the table name and all those other things. So yeah, I think we just covered that part as well. Variant, we cover string injection, and you can use null plus string like this one. Okay, I just explained. And then we have method 2 using numeric method, uh, constants, and for that you can simply type union select 1 2 3 4. Like in our case we have 2, so we will be using 2. And yeah, I think you can try it by yourself. If I keep trying all of them, it will literally take a lot of time for us. So then we have a pro tip, and the pro tip is if the server is blocking you, you can always use encoded method. Like for example, here you can see, you can change the union format by just using capital characters and small character. This is the combination, and you can use inline comments as well, like in this way. it will literally bypass. And you can also use a hex conversion. Okay, for example, instead of 1 you can type 0x31. This is the hex value of 1. And instead of 2 you can type 0x and 3 2. And this is the second method. So in the I think the video will be go longer. That's why I will stop it here as a part 1. And in part 2 we will be basically trying to enumerate the database, and we will be trying to for the enumeration and fingerprinting, in which we will be trying to pull out the database details like their versions, database names, users, host names, each and everything step by step for different databases. And by the way, we have find out the number of columns, and then we have identified the vulnerable and reflected columns. Now our third goal will be to find out the tables. Yeah, to find out the table names. Okay, once we find out the table names, then we will be trying that those tables have what sort of or what kind of columns. Okay, for example, if we have a user table, the user table might have username and password. So we will be trying to pull out the username and password from that table. And yeah, there will be a step by step method, so stay connected. And for more details like regarding course each and everything, you can just simply visit my website MasaudSec.com. A link is in the description where you will find each and everything if you are interested in. Okay, so take care, a good day, bye, see you in the part 2.